Hello, welcome to this tutorial, and I'm going to show you today how to do an easy pot holder. Now, pot holders are super functional and they make great gifts because they are so pretty, and you can really customize them to any kind of color palette that you like. And there's so many options, so many pretty fabrics. But I'm going to show you today what I used. So first of all, I have my fabric top right here, and this is basically a 5-inch block that I use foundation paper piecing method to make this super cute house. And I have fallen in love with FPP, foundation paper piecing. I find that it's very therapeutic, and also you get to use your scraps for little pieces like this, and they just come together beautifully. All right, and then what I did is I just basically inserted 2 pieces of fabric, just sewing them right sides to the edges because I wanted my little house on the corner here. I think it's pretty cute. And for my second layer, I have batting. So you would want to use cotton batting if you are making a pot holder or something that's used to reflect heat or cold. You want to make sure that you're using something that is fire resistant, right? So cotton is the best. And then we're going to use some Insole Bright. Another product that you can use is the Pellon Insole Fleece. That's the 975 Insole Fleece. And you can see it has this bright foil almost looking layer, and it really helps to reflect heat or cold back to its source. So if I'm using it for my pot holder, I want to keep the heat away from the table, right? So I'm making sure that this is facing upwards to my fabric top. Okay, and then I have another layer of batting just for extra protection. And what we are going to do is we are going to first quilt these layers together. So this is basically our quilt sandwich. And I'm not going to quilt the back. It's definitely a preference. You can definitely put your backing fabric as well and then quilt the entire thing. But I think I want to leave that layer out, and I'm just going to baste it later on to the back. And then we are going to use these super cute binding spools, and I'm going to show you how to finish our edges. All right, so first of all, to secure all the layers together to make sure that they do not move, I'm going to use my temporary adhesive. And this is a spray, and I really like this product. It's just great for keeping things together. And obviously, if you don't have this, you can also use sewing pins, and just to make sure that they do not move around. Just be careful when you're using it on your surfaces that you wipe it clean after, because it might get a little bit sticky. Okay, so let's go ahead and just quilt these layers together, and you can really use any kind of sewing machine. Just make sure that you can also press the lines, or you can use an erasable marker, erasable chalk, to just kind of have your lines or grid your patterns together before you quilt it. Okay, so I'm at my sewing machine, and I'm just going to quilt some easy straight lines here. Nothing fancy, and I didn't even have any lines pre-drawn or anything. I'm just going to eyeball it and try and go as straight as I can, and kind of just following the lines on my sewing plate here. So my lines are about 1 inch and 7 1/8. So I'm just making sure I kind of go straight. Okay, so my quilting is done and it looks so pretty already. You can kind of see that puffy texture, which I really like. And then we are going to grab our backing fabric. So I'm going to use this sunflower fabric of mine. This one is a poplin, so use any, you can use canvas or any kind of wovens. I'm gonna put it right side down. And if your fabric is directional, like this one is kind of, the stems are going one way, so making sure that I want it the right way. And now we are just going to square up our sandwich here with the backing. Okay, so now it's perfectly squared up, and you can secure the backing on with either the spray like I have here, or you can use pins as well. Make sure that you wipe your areas after you've used this spray, because it gets kind of sticky and you don't want it to ruin any of your cutting mat or your countertops. All right, so now we are going to grab our binding fabric. Now look at this pretty fabric that is just in a binding form, and it's pretty much a pre-folded strip of fabric, and it's just wound in this super cute vintage spool. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to use this as the edging or the binding. It's going to be super cute. All right, so first of all, we are going to tuck in our raw edges. So basically open up your fold and tuck it in and fold it back, right? And this fabric is really nice and silky, and it's pretty lightweight, so you're not going to feel that bulkiness in there. Okay, so I'm going to tuck it in and then use it to just start on the edge of my pot holder here. Just secure it with clips. And I'm going to show you how we're going to work on this corner as well. Okay, so at the sewing machine, I have my stitch length of 2, and I'm going to start sewing a couple of inches away from the start of my binding. Okay, so just leave a little tail. And I'm sewing with a 1/4 inch seam allowance away from the edge. I'm back stitching before I begin. Okay, so then you want to stop about a 1/4 inch away from the edge. And we are going to back stitch. So now this is what it looks like. And I just turned my pot holder down, and then for my binding fabric, I'm going to angle it at a 45 degree. And I'm going to make a crease right here. And I'm going to make another crease going back down on itself. Okay, so there's this little fold in there, and try to make it as precise. If not, your binding is going to not be as neat. Okay, so I have it now. Okay, and I'm going to start sewing a 1/4 inch down from the edge. Okay, so basically wherever you stopped at that corner, that's where you are going to pick it up again. Okay, so now I'm going to back stitch and go all the way to my next corner. Okay, so go slow when you're approaching the corner and stop 1/4 inch away from the edge and back stitch. Turn your fabric around once again, lift your needle up. Okay, once again you are going to fold it at a 45-degree angle. Okay, make sure it's nice and straight up and then fold it back down again. And there you have it. Okay, and then you want to start 1/4 inch away from the top. Back stitch and go back. Okay, so now that we are approaching our starting point here, now I'm going to kind of just lay it, and I'm going to cut off a little bit longer so that what we're going to do is we are just going to place that ending here with that raw edge. We're just going to tuck it in that nice folded edge right there. And just kind of make sure that it lays nicely. If you want, you can secure it with some clips. Okay, but basically this is how I choose to hide my edge here. Now, because my binding fabric is very lightweight, you're not going to get bunching here, which you could if you're using a thicker binding fabric. So for this tutorial, I'm just tucking it in, and it's super easy, and the results are also super great. Just making sure that it all lays flat, and as you sew, you can kind of just adjust it as well. Back stitch, and there you have it. So this part here is hidden, that end is hidden in that starting point. Okay, so now we are going to just flip it backwards, and just making sure that you have sewed through all the layers. Okay, so make sure you double check, and if not, make sure you fix your sandwich to make sure that your binding is attached to all the layers. All right, so now all you have to do is just turn your binding fabric towards the back. And just use your fingers and press out the corners. And just make a nice fold. And you can see how it just folds nicely on itself. And forms like a diagonal crease. Okay, so now I can go back to my sewing machine and we are going to just stitch very close to our binding edge here just to secure it. Now I want to also mention that you are going to see that stitch out coming in the front, so you want to just kind of eyeball it and just test it out where is the best where you should stitch, and just to make sure that it appears almost close to this seam right here. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, and if you also don't want the stitches to show, you can hand stitch them down. So you can just hand stitch this binding at the back. Another way is you could also stitch from the front. So all you have to do is stitch in the ditch, so right in the seam, just making sure that it will catch your binding fabric over here. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So just to ensure that I'm not seeing those stitches from my front of the fabric, so I'm just going to stitch in the ditch. And I'm using a stitch length of 2. And there you have it. Your super cute pot holder is done and it's just ready for gift giving. You can make a million of these, and all using this super cute binding fabric. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you can go ahead and make your very own. Bye bye.